So it's not until we own the industries and become independent of the corporations that we can decide to get on one line of communication and say, look, this month is the kind of messages we're going to make. This season, the kind of messages we're going to make. And when you put that into the music, subtly embedded, change the frequency, it changed the entire planetary system of the frequency that all black people are on.
Yes.
Because I can bring up certain music right now that you all will know it, right? But if I bring up certain speeches from certain political leaders or righteous leaders in our communities, you won't know it, right?
Those are suppressed.
Exactly.
You cannot have those people talking to the whole general population about them getting or stepping up on their own and try to fight what's against them.
But you'd rather have something which tells people that actually, you know, if you can do whatever and get 10 millions, you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
But what is 10 millions good for you if your whole community or your whole neighborhood is still fucked up?
As black people now, this generation, we need to learn how to own, how to actually start taking ownership of what we feel like is ours, because everything that we bring out is taken. Like it's so sad. Even like our culture, our hip hop, our music, everything.
We don't pay attention.
Yeah,
You know what? Here's an important thing. We allow them to middleman the culture, right? So this aspect of how black people influence Africans influence black people. But what we get from Africans, we buy from white people. And what y'all get from black people, y'all buy from white people.
Yeah.
So the reason that there's not this level of appreciation between each other, even though y'all buying into our culture, you're not buying it from us.
You're not buying directly from each other.
And even though that we're buying into your culture, we're not buying it from you all.
Yeah.
But if we were and we were stimulating each other, then we would understand a different level of appreciation and value towards each other.
Definitely.
Right? Because then we would need each other.
Yes.
But since we don't own it, and even though we're influenced by each other, we're not directly benefiting from this influence.
Definitely.
So the goal is now is to create a line of import and export between each other, and we buy the culture directly from the culture.
Yeah.
And we take it out the hands of every single middleman.
Yeah.
And we make our rappers and everybody, we make them seem like suckers if they going up there and they don't own their music.
Yeah.
And they're selling it to us, but somebody else is taking a bigger percentage. Right? We gotta ask them, no, are you colonized? Are you a coon? Are you a nigga? Are you a boy?
Yeah.
Are you a slave? Because we don't want to hear no music from none of y'all if you ain't bosses of your own music.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if the music is not embedding messages for the culture, then we don't even want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of responsibility we have as consumers to put on those who give us the products. So, you know, of course, doing for self is 100% important. And we have the ability to be completely independent of these systems that we've created. And the people, you know, one thing that happened out here, right? You all had Mandela. We had Obama. You know, Mandela pacified the people at a time when they were up in arms and ready to take over the entire system.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that, you know, you won anything, you were pacified with the token to say that, hey, please chill out. We're going to let one of your revolutionaries go and he's going to act as a symbol. And even Mandela said that I was just a symbol. This is a job for the youth.
Yeah.
You understand me?
He did.
And so you have to understand that because Obama was our Mandela in a sense, because at a time when we had uprisings against the government, they said, whoa, 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 let's put our old trick in the book. Let's utilize Obama. It worked in South Africa.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do it.
Let's do it here.
It's the last straw. So we have to remember that we can no longer take Trojan horses. We can no longer trust, you know, government entities to ever serve our best interests. And we have to delete social contracts with things that don't serve our best interests and start to reconstruct contracts with each other to serve our best interests, to be sovereign citizens.
Yeah.
So our best interest and self-interest is that of freedom, justice, and equality. But see, we're at this point now where it's not simply about being free. You know who wants freedom? A slave. So once you get freedom, what do you want? Power.
Yeah.
The one who has power is the one who controls the workforce. The one who controls the workforce has rulership because you have to come to him.
Yeah.
So even once you get free, now you got to get a job. So you come to the one who has the workforce.
Yeah.
So the goal today is to control the workforce and you control the power, right? And then it's taking all these corporations that we see in our neighborhoods and we eliminate them. We take the McDonald's out, we take the Shells out, we take all these corporations and say, wait a minute. For one, you're not giving back anything to us.
Yeah.
We're supporting you and we're stimulating someone else's economy.
Yeah.
Right? So why wouldn't, if we're the dominant entity around here, why wouldn't we just want to own the corporations and have that stimulate us completely 100%?
Yes.
Right? So every time you pump your gas, you know that's going back into your community to revitalize it. How can you consider you to have a third world country, but you have first world corporations that's coming over here eating off the people?
The first world corporations rule the land.
Exactly.
Literally, they do everything. And that's why, like, this whole xenophobia thing that South Africa was going through, I don't know if you guys heard about, but just recently we were going through xenophobia. And people don't actually know what was really going on.
Explain to people that don't know what xenophobia is.
So xenophobia is basically like people from the same continent like hating on each other when they go into, like, for instance, how people from Zimbabwe come here and then all of a sudden South Africans kind of hate on them and they don't want them there. But people don't actually understand the bigger picture of it all. The South Africans, the reason why they're angry is because they feel like they've been robbed. Like Nelson Mandela, yes, he was a symbol for us, but he didn't really, okay, let me not say it like that.
No. I want you to say it 100%.
He didn't really do anything for us.
There we go.
Let me just be honest.
Hey, don't apologize for saying it. That's because there's I speak truth to power, you know, and there's an importance of our generation speaking the 100 unfiltered, you know, unpolitically correct truth.
Yeah.
You understand me? Because that's how things change. Because the next generation hear it and they take that as reality, and then they can move and build on that.
Yes.
But if we pacify with, some of my parents like them, so I don't want to say too much. No,
It's
right?
not gonna work.
So like we tell the truth about Obama. Obama, like I said, he was a symbol for us, but he didn't give us anything.
Yeah.
And some people say that it was our fault because we didn't ask him for the right things. We gave him the vote without wanting any real action behind it. And he was the first black president to bomb Africa. So it's terrible, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing I do respect about Nelson Mandela that I will give him credit for is he stood by Gaddafi. You know, he stood by Fidel Castro.
Yes.
You know, and I forget the other leader at the time. And that was something when he went to the UK and he was talking to Tony Blair about, you know, Gaddafi, he made him understand a little bit from Gaddafi's position. Yeah. So when it comes to that particular aspect, we don't, you know, we it's a saying called eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Yeah.
You know, for the vegans, we eat the fruit and spit out the seeds. But we definitely take the best parts, you know, and we settle on the best part. That's something that we say in the Nation Islam. We settle on the best part of our people.
Yeah.
But we won't take the whole if it's not good for us.
Actually, I'm sorry to cut you there. Just to add a bit on my head. For the longest
time, look like it though. Don't talk too bad about it.
Actually, for the longest time, I had that idea of him being a traitor. Mandela sold us art, he never gave us whatever we wanted. But then after some time, I said, I don't know, around campus, I was talking to
I think we were having the chat.
I was with you.
Yeah, I think we were having that chat.
Yeah. I was talking to them guys. I'm like, have you guys realized how much politics have killed youth? More especially, I was just talking about South Africa. I'm like, look at our campus. You can look at every politically affiliated student, every politically affiliated civilian in this country. I'm sorry to say this, but they will amount to nothing good in future. No one is useless, but those are people who would never become anything, who cry for corruption. Corruption is bred through the foundation of politics, which is student politics. These guys, they're not about empowering.
Yeah.
I asked this other guy this other day, I'm like, okay, so say for instance you wanted to, you F7 people. Okay. So F7 is like academically excluded. So you normally go through the political structures for you to get a hearing, whatever, and sometimes reverse and all that.
Yeah.
Normally, this thing can be reversed without involving any political person.
True.
You can literally go there, if you know who you're supposed to go to, you can literally go there, talk to that person, and then you'll be good. Because no one can argue a case more than you can. But these guys will literally take you, do all the talking for you there, step out, call you to come and confirm that whatever he said was true. You don't even know what this guy said. I'm like, my guy, that has never been empowering. Empowering has never came out like that. If you tell me that you got F7, go to that go to that door.
What
In
is
that door,
what is
you find-
F7 for my people who don't know? And I don't know.
Oh, okay. F7 is like a University of Johannesburg code for academically excluded people.
So
If
if
you,
you fail.
if you fail more than 50% of your modules, academic modules, you'll be given an F7 code. in
So
your
you
academic
basically have to
transcript.
leave.
You're excluded from
university.
school. Yeah, so, but you can obviously, try to protest it whenever you do. But I was actually on the Mandela issue before I taught you. So, I was looking at the African countries. We're the youngest democracy in Africa. Everyone is older. There's no stable country in Africa other than South Africa. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to look good.
Yeah,
or trying to
Gauteng
look-
isn't it one of the wealthiest provinces
Yeah.
in Africa?
It is, yes.
And I'm not trying to look down on the other African countries, but this is what Mandela saw. South Africans would have wanted money, would have wanted economical freedom at that time, would have wanted free education, would have wanted all free things,
Yeah.
which
You want our land back?
rightfully they deserve.
Yes.
But let's look at it, because we're a big community, we're an African community, right? What's happening in Congo? What's happening in Central Africa? What's happening in Nigeria? What's happening in Ghana? In all these African countries, before our democracy, they got everything they wanted. Their presidents gave them everything they wanted. Patrice Lumumba gave Congolese everything in Congo. All of them, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, all these guys gave these people whatever people asked for. At the end, it never turned out as how people had anticipated things to be. Come to the South African story. Mandela being the smart guy he's always been. All our struggle heroes, all our freedom fighters, all of them were in exile. Why? And people have never asked themselves, why were these guys in exile? That's not because they were trying to fight for us. These guys were trying to stay safe.
Yeah.
These guys were not trying to get killed.
Yeah.
Because they knew if in South Africa and you're having a voice, you're gonna get killed. And if things go right in the future, you'll be dead. You won't eat. Why do you think our government, our politics is run by all former presidents?
Yeah.
No one wants to let go of power. Because this is what Mandela saw at that time. Because these guys were in his group. He could see these guys, these people, this country would end up exactly like them other African countries if they can get what they want. They need to acquire value for things on their own. If they want free education, they should fight for free education on their own terms. Not this generation. I just got this for. The coming generations, those are the people who would have an understanding of what's
Of the
really happening.
value.
Of the value. Look at how we've been pushing the fees must fall thing.
True.
It's been going smoothly because it's not about anyone, it's about this generation. It's this generation driving it. He actually did say it. Aluta continue.
Yeah.
Well, to the point of, youth. The youth are the one who sparked the first, uprising. as
Even
well.
the 76 uprising.
Right.
That was the
But our freedom fighters, our struggle guys, they came after 76. They came back. They claimed everything.
See, now,
So it was now their move and fought.
this is one of the
They
big
took
issues.
everything now. But people who were inside the country, fighting, getting shot, getting killed, are nowhere recognized.
You hit the nail on the head when you say people who got power don't want to give it up. And this is one of the most dangerous things in our community because it's not about the individual.
Yeah.
And this is where we lose a lot because an individual props himself up in a position for being an activist, for being a revolutionary.
Yes.
And then once they get that
Yes.
power and they get that influence, they start to feel themselves. And it becomes less about the results and more about empowering themselves to a position. So when there's a youth that may seem to be more significant, that can produce a better change, they don't want to relinquish the spotlight to that youth to empower them and to stand behind them.
Yes.
Even though that's how they empower themselves. So there's an individualistic mindset that's embedded into our so-called revolutions that we perpetuate our own oppression with that. And we kill it and have to restart over every generation because that same egoistic mentality continues to be perpetuated.
I honestly feel like the individualism is killing Africans the most. That is the...
Because we are tribal people, we are meant to work together.
Out here, busy, white people are doing exactly everything we think they're doing.
Yeah.
But we're giving them way too much credit than they deserve.
Honestly, yeah.
Way too much.
White supremacy will thrive regardless of if we focus on it or not.
Yeah.
Black excellence will not thrive if we don't focus on it.
Exactly.
So we can complain until we are pale in the face and we look white
Honestly.
about them. But if we're not producing the solutions, loving each other, protecting each other, providing empowerment to each other, we lose. Right now, we have a problem in America where everybody's becoming these celebrity activists, celebrity revolutionaries.
It's the same thing even here in South Africa.
And the ego is mounting.
Yeah.
And when we have the ability to empower each other and be in rooms with each other to say, like, you know what, I don't want to do this alone. Let me bring my brother in, because the more of us, the more powerful we become. But instead, we allow them to tokenize us and it's just one in the room. Because it's easier to control one.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But when you let everybody in the room, then that's real power. But if it's just one speaking for the people outside the room, then that's dangerous.
It is.
Because then they thinking, you know, maybe if this person turns, so I call it the WeGo.
The Vigo.
So I co-founded a group called the Shifters, and it's short for Paradigm Shifters. And we travel around the country and we work together, and we all have our own respective platforms. And we have our own respective influences. But what we do is we put up our own money to travel together, we teach black people around the world how to shift their mindset, how to start businesses, cultivate spirituality, consciousness, and a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And it can never be about the individual. So, because we know ego kills organization every single time. So instead of bragging about what I do, having to be the one that always has to be out front, the goal is to say, no, let's brag about what we do.
Very hard as a collective.
Yeah.
So when you see a group of black men and black women working together, you say, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah.
I know how hard it is to work with all these big-headed people.
Right?
We can barely walk through the door. You know what I'm talking about? So now the point is trying to figure out how do we get to this place to where we understand that for one, the internet is one big collaborative system anyway. That's all we do on the internet.
Yeah,
listen, an influencer is nothing without the followers.
Yeah.
The influencer collaborates with the followers. That's what you do. The likes, the comments, the shares, that is a collaboration. You're putting it out there, but you can never be so full of yourself that you forget to tap in. And each individual, we call that, my brother Dr. Wesley coined this called the Black God Protocol. To where each individual has a specialty, has a frequency, has a spectrum inside them that I don't have. So even if I master this godliness inside myself, I still have to bow down to you because you have something I don't have. But if I'm so full of myself, and my cup is running over, then I can never take in what you have. And so the frequency is all of us working together, right? So we can be young, rich black guys across this planet Earth. And that's how it works. So I want to leave on this. In America, there's a lot of ignorance as to what Africa is. You know, because people come out here and they never show Africa. They never, and here's the problem I have with tourism out here, is that you constantly want to jump around from place to place instead of steep in one place and get to know it for a minute. And I think that's the issue, is that, no, let me jump over there to say I was in this country. Then let me go here to say I was in this country. But you have to spend time with the people. You have to talk to the people. You have to go around. You have to observe. You have to listen. Because these people are scared of Africans that you walking past. And they don't even, sometimes they don't even know you're from America until you start talking. You know what I'm saying? So they just thought, there's so many black people out here, they don't know that you're not from here. You know?
You black too.
They just see all black people all day and all type of black people. Somebody asked me if I was Arabic. I'm like, oh yeah, they used to see so many different type of black people. It wasn't until, you know, you speak more and then you give more of your accent. They said, are you from the States? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Cali. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that I think that's like an important thing. But what message would you give to Black Americans? To I don't know, just as a bridge to where they can understand that there's not an animosity or a hatred. We may have ignorance on both sides about who we are, but all of our experience out here was love and energy. You know what I mean? They call me Booty. Booty kids. Booty means brother. You know what I'm talking about? And every time I talk to a brother, they see Arabic or something, they be like, oh, you Muslim? And they say, oh, you're my brother. But they make it seem as if you all hate Black Muslims in America. That's the mentality that has been spilled to us. Or they make it seem like you don't like Black people, period, in America. That has been something that always been a dividing gap to keep Black people from coming over here. So everybody wants to go to Europe
So
and
that's
see that
why
rusty
Americans
ass
don't
Eiffel
come
Tower instead of come out here and tap in. Where I went to Adam's Calendar, and you know that's the oldest megalithic site in the world. But most people never even heard of it. When I went to the Apartheid Museum, I seen something that was on the wall that was talking about We Are the Walkers, I believe, and it was talking about how there was 77,000 euro geometrical shapes that we used to utilize in order to communicate between each other. And when you think about that and how advanced and how sophisticated that system is, because for one, to speak in geometrical shapes is a very complex mathematical thought process.
It is.
But we think of ourselves through the lens of white supremacy, so we think of ourselves as uncivilized and primitive.
Yeah.
You understand me? Instead of understanding that even those people that are in the tribes, they have a level of sophistication that people that live in cities don't even have. If you are out of touch with nature, then you can never be as civilized, you can never be as advanced as the people that are in touch with nature. Because you have to go to another man and another doctor in order to teach you how to heal yourself. They can go directly to the earth and know exactly what plants and what herbs are good to remineralize the body and heal the body. So who is out of touch and who is more advanced?
Yeah.
So we have to stop viewing civilization through the lens of white supremacy, and we have to go back to our nature and view it through the lens of our own God consciousness.
Actually, I think we've mistaken.
Oh, but you, I be talking so much. Y'all tell Black Americans, you know what I mean? What y'all have to know.
Yeah, I think we've mistaken civilization with westernization.
Right.
More especially on this part of Earth, like Africa. We think being civilized is becoming white, or becoming more of a European or Western.
And white civilization is to cover up their savagery.
Yeah.
So think about this before I'm going to finish. But if you look at, the table spread, they have 1 million forks and spoons, one for pudding and one for rice.
Yeah.
It's wear these fancy suits and all these other different things, but behind that is the lowest level. Like we had chattel slavery. Chattel slavery was the worst level of human depreciation possible, right? It took you and stripped you of every essence of being that made you a human. Right? It robbed you of your ability to think, your ability to eat, your ability to have your own religion, your own name. It tortured you. It raped the men, it raped the women. It separated the men and women. It killed it. It was just the most horrific form. Right? And out there, we have this thought process to say, well, Africans enslaved Africans, but it wasn't even the same. I think that we should need a different name. For what happened out here and what happened out there.
Definitely.
Because to cast them together as both forms of slavery is not even fair, right? Which is the reason we call something prison and one slavery, even though prison industry is slavery as well. But when you get to the essence of what happened to Black Americans, which is why we try to be more African than y'all, because we're trying to connect.
Yeah.
I went to the UK with the Queen Diamia at a Congo. And she's a queen by royalty, by being able to connect her bloodline to the land.
Yes.
We can't do that in America. So we tap inward to our DNA because we can't connect to the land.
Yes.
Right? So we can't claim the king and queen status. So we tap into that God molecule that exists within us. You understand me? And so there's a different level of consciousness and self-identity that produces our consciousness.
Yeah.
But when it comes to bridging the gap between Africans and Black, for one, we have to stop comparing our experiences as if
it's a competition.
And as if like you all had anything to, in the framework that modern Africans are responsible for Black slavery, right? Chattel slavery. And I think that that's where a disconnect lies. Because instead of seeing our open enemy that's right in front of us, we think about people that are across the pond and you're mad at them for something that they didn't do for us. us. When today our generation has to start just bridging the gap and figuring out how we can work together, right? That form of slavery that existed out here is not the same form of slavery that existed where we was. You understand me? And if you don't educate yourself, you'll always be ignorant. Ignorance is what causes the divide and creates the slaves.
Yes.
And the slaves hate the next slave.
Yeah.
And the way that they feel empowered is by putting another slave down because they can't put the master down.
Yeah.
You understand me? So we have to remember, for one, we have to become masters and then work with each other. You understand me? But I relinquish. And I sit back and I'll let you guys. But yeah, just a message to Black America.
I think Black America, y'all have no idea how much we love you here in Africa, actually. Like, we look up to Black Americans so much, and a lot of the things that we do in our culture and everything is very much inspired by what you guys do, because the fact that you guys are able to tap into that God molecule, into your DNA, that's beautiful. To be able to be so far away from your home, from your land, but to still come back and to find who you are, that is something that we can all learn. Even though we're here in Africa, there's a lot of Africans who are lost. They also don't know where they're from or where their roots are or where they actually belong in the land here on its own. So we have to actually learn from each other. Like, instead of hating on each other, we should learn how to communicate and to connect with one another and to inspire one another, and not to be like, you know what, we're better than you, or, you know, we're doing things better, because it's not like that. A lot of your culture is also inspired by Africa, because you guys are Africans. So you can't help but be inspired by who you are, and we can't help but be inspired by who you guys are, because you guys are who we are. We're all one thing. So it's very important that we come back and we realize that we are one and we are united. We are not separated. We have been separated, yes, but we don't have to live like that. We can come back and love each other. I think the most important thing is love. Africa was very much about love, and you know, that was like the main thing that we would make sure that is amongst us. That was the common thing. Ubuntu is actually love, loving one another. And we need to come back to that, coming back to that simple base love, like of my brother and my sister, even though we're far and everything is happening, we need to love one another.
That's beautiful. My brother.
Yeah, most definitely what she says is pretty much correct. Because I feel like Black Americans, if that's correct.
African American.
Because I think there's even a confusion.
Well, you know, the term African American was actually coined by Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson is not considered a reputable leader for Black people. So those who consider themselves to be of the woke caliber, look,
Yeah.
like, and some people call themselves Moors, some people call themselves Black.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you guys on that side of the planet are. I mean, you have all this access. You reach things earlier than us. You know.
Y'all look great with the
You're
manifestation.
like
Y'all manifest so quickly.
You're advanced on things. Information, you got archives, you got information you could not really tap into. What you guys need to remember is when Africa was invaded, everything was taken away from Africa. You guys have a better chance of discovering our information which is hidden on your side, not on this side. This side we have the flawed information, we have the lead information, we have information which was told to us which we cannot really provide so much evidence of because it had to be taken away. People who took it away are people who run your corporates, which runs your countries, Britain, America, all of that. You guys have means of getting this information. I've listened to your KRS ones and all these conscious brothers which have been even rappers. They have a way of giving the information, but they also have a way of thinking if they come this side of Africa, they will get more information on their backgrounds. I doubt you guys can get information on your DNAs and everything here. What you can get here is principles. What you can get here is proof. Yes, how it is to be black.
Right.
How it feels to be black. You know, you guys can be black, but honestly, you might. I think I had to say on that. In America, they might teach you that we don't like black Muslims. We don't like really black people, which are in America. Somehow there is that. You know, it can be true. It's not entirely true, because we can look at you and be like, these guys are black, but they're acting white.
Right.
You know?
And that's very to that thought process. There are a lot of black people with black skin, but with white bodies.
And subliminally,
Right.
me seeing you acting white and